The sirens screamed through the night as Marcus watched his neighbor's house burn. But when the firefighters arrived, something was terribly wrong. Their gear was fake, their hoses were garden variety, and the man barking orders, he was just the HOA president who'd been terrorizing the neighborhood for months. Marcus Chen pressed his face against the cold window, watching orange flames lick at the Hendersons' roof 3 houses down. The acrid smell of burning shingles filled the air even through his closed windows. He'd called 911 20 minutes ago, but the sirens had only just arrived. Finally, he muttered, grabbing his jacket. As a retired paramedic, his instincts kicked in. Maybe he could help. But as he stepped onto his porch, something made him freeze. The fire truck pulling up wasn't the familiar red engine from Station 19. It was smaller, newer, with crisp white lettering that read Pinecrest Community Emergency Response. The men jumping out wore spotless gear that looked straight from a catalog. "That's not our fire department," Marcus whispered, pulling out his phone to record. The man directing the operation made Marcus's blood run cold. It was Derek Mansion, the HOA president who'd been making residents' lives hell for the past year, the same Derek who'd fined Marcus $50 for leaving his trash cans out 15 minutes too long, the same Derek who'd threatened to foreclose on the Hendersons just last week over their non-compliant garden gnomes. "Move back, everyone," Derek shouted, his voice carrying that familiar authoritarian tone. "This is a restricted area." Mrs. Henderson rushed toward the house, tears streaming down her face. "My cat Whiskers is still inside." Derek grabbed her arm roughly. "Ma'am, you need to stay back. We're professionals." Marcus watched in horror as Derek's firefighters began unrolling what looked like garden hoses. Their helmets were plastic, their boots were rubber rain boots, spray-painted black. One man was struggling with an oxygen tank that was clearly just a scuba diving cylinder with fake labels. "Wait!" Marcus called out, jogging toward them. "I don't think, sir. Step back immediately," Derek barked, his face red with anger. "This is an official emergency operation." Marcus pulled out his phone, dialing 911 again. "This is Marcus Chen on Maple Street. We have a house fire, but there are people here pretending to be firefighters. I need real emergency services immediately." Derek's eyes widened as he overheard. He whispered something to his men, and 3 of them started walking toward Marcus with threatening expressions. "You're interfering with emergency operations," Derek said, his voice deadly quiet. "That's a federal crime. You're not emergency services." Marcus shot back, "You're HOA volunteers playing dress-up while a house burns down." The confrontation was interrupted by Mrs. Henderson's scream. The fire spreading to the garage. "Please, someone help Whiskers." Marcus watched in disbelief as Derek's fake firefighters aimed their garden hoses at the flames. The water pressure was reaching the first floor, let alone the roaring fire above. "This is insane," Marcus muttered. But then he noticed something that made his stomach drop. Mr. Kim from 2 houses over was filming everything with his phone, and Derek had spotted him too. "Confiscate that device," Derek ordered his men. "All recording equipment is prohibited in emergency zones." 2 fake firefighters moved toward Mr. Kim, but Marcus stepped between them. "You have no authority to take anyone's property." "I have full authority granted by the Pinecrest HOA Emergency Response Protocol." Section 15B, Derek said, pulling out an official-looking document. "Any resident who interferes with emergency operations will be subject to immediate fines and potential eviction proceedings." Marcus grabbed the document, scanning it quickly. His paramedic training had taught him to spot fake credentials, and this was amateur hour. "This is completely made up. Section 15B doesn't exist in any legitimate emergency protocol." Derek's face twisted with rage. "You're going to regret this, Chen. I've been looking for a reason to get you out of this neighborhood." "The feeling's mutual," Marcus replied, but his attention was caught by something else. Real sirens were approaching, the deep, familiar wail of an actual fire engine. Derek heard them too, and panic flashed across his face. "Pack it up now," he hissed to his men. "Emergency drill complete." "Drill!" Mrs. Henderson shrieked. "My house is on fire! My cat! The fire department will handle it from here," Derek said, signaling his men to retreat. But as they scrambled to load their fake equipment, Marcus noticed something that made everything click into place. The emergency vehicle had a small magnetic sign on the side that was peeling off. Underneath, Marcus could see the original lettering. Mansion Property Management, Derek Mansion, CEO. Derek wasn't just the HOA president, he was a property management company owner, and Mrs. Henderson had just received foreclosure papers. Last week, as the real firefighters arrived and began their professional response, Marcus felt pieces of a larger puzzle falling into place. Derek's fake emergency response wasn't just about playing hero, it was about something much more sinister. But before Marcus could process this revelation fully, Derek appeared beside him with a clipboard and a cruel smile. "Congratulations, Chen," Derek said, his voice dripping with false sweetness. "You've just earned yourself a $5,000 fine for interfering with authorized HOA emergency operations. Payment is due within 72 hours, or we'll begin foreclosure proceedings." Marcus stared at the fine, his hands trembling with rage. But as he looked up at Derek's smug face, he realized something the HOA president had overlooked in his arrogance. Marcus's phone had been recording everything. The real fire department had the Henderson house under control within minutes, their professional equipment making Derek's garden hose operation look like a children's game. Fire Chief Rodriguez approached Marcus as the fake firefighters finished. Packing their props, "Sir, we got a report about unauthorized personnel at this scene," Chief Rodriguez said, his weathered face stern. "Did you witness what happened?" Marcus glanced at Derek, who was now standing 50 feet away, pretending to comfort Mrs. Henderson, while actually handing her more paperwork. "Chief, I've got everything recorded. These weren't firefighters, they were HOA volunteers with fake equipment." "Show me," Rodriguez demanded, and Marcus played back the footage on his phone. The chief's expression grew darker with each passing second. "Jesus Christ," Rodriguez muttered. "This is criminal impersonation of emergency personnel. We could have had casualties because of this stunt." But before Marcus could respond, Derek's voice boomed across the yard. "Chief Rodriguez, thank goodness. You're here. We've just completed our preliminary emergency response assessment. The Pinecrest Community Emergency Response Team has everything documented." Rodriguez walked over to Derek with Marcus following. "Mr. Mansion, I need to see your emergency response credentials. Now?" Derek's confident smile faltered for just a moment. "Of course, Chief. We operate under the Pinecrest HOA Emergency Response Protocol. Everything is completely legitimate." "There's no such thing as HOA Emergency Response Protocols," Rodriguez said flatly. "What you just did is illegal on about 6 different levels." Mrs. Henderson looked up from the paperwork Derek had given her, confusion replacing her grief. "What's happening?" Derek said this was all official. Marcus looked at the papers in her hands and felt his anger spike. "Mrs. Henderson, what did he give you?" She held up the documents with shaking hands. "Emergency damage assessment forms," he said. "I need to sign them for insurance purposes." Marcus grabbed the papers, scanning them quickly. His jaw dropped. "These aren't insurance forms. These are emergency sale agreements." "Derek, you're trying to get her to sign over her property rights while her house is still smoking." Derek lunged forward, trying to grab the papers. "Those are confidential HOA documents. You have no right, I have every right," Marcus shouted, holding the papers out of reach. "Mrs. Henderson, don't sign anything! This man is trying to steal your house." Chief Rodriguez stepped between them. "Mr. Mansion, you need to come with me now." But Derek wasn't finished. With a desperate gleam in his eyes, he pulled out his phone and made a call. "This is Derek Mansion, HOA president. I need immediate assistance. We have a resident who's become violent and is threatening community safety." "Who are you calling?" Rodriguez demanded. Derek's smile returned, cold and calculating. "Private security. The HOA has contracted with Apex Security Solutions to handle resident disputes. They'll be here in 5 minutes." Marcus felt his blood chill. "Private security. You can't call private security for a public emergency." "I can, and I did," replied. "The Pinecrest HOA has full authority to maintain order in our community. Anyone who interferes with that authority will be removed." As if summoned by his words, 2 black SUVs pulled up to the scene. 6 men in tactical gear emerged, all bearing Apex security patches. They moved with military precision toward the group. "Sir," the lead security officer addressed Derek, "we received a report of a violent resident threatening community safety." Derek pointed directly at Marcus. "That man has been interfering with emergency operations, threatening HOA officials, and inciting other residents to violence." I want him removed from the property immediately." Marcus looked around desperately. Chief Rodriguez was on his radio, probably calling for backup, but the security team was already moving toward him. "Wait," Mrs. Henderson called out, her voice stronger than it had been all night. "This man helped me. He saved me from signing those papers." The lead security officer paused, looking between Derek and Mrs. Henderson. "Ma'am, are you saying you don't want this man removed?" "That's exactly what I'm saying," she replied, then turned to Derek with fire in her eyes. "And I want to know why you were trying to get me to sign papers while my house was burning down." Derek's face went pale. "Mrs. Henderson, you're clearly traumatized. You don't understand what you're saying." "I understand perfectly," she snapped. "You've been trying to force me out of my home for months. The fines, the violations, the foreclosure, threats, and now this." Marcus saw his opportunity. "Mrs. Henderson, Derek isn't just the HOA president. He owns Mansion Property Management. I saw the sign on his fake fire truck. He's been creating problems for residents so he can buy their properties cheap and flip them." The security team leader looked uncomfortable. "Sir, if this is some kind of property dispute, we're not authorized." "2. You're authorized to remove trespassers and troublemakers," Derek interrupted. "That man is both." But Chief Rodriguez had finished his radio call and returned with new information. "Mr. Manchin, I just spoke with the county. There's no record of any HOA emergency response team registered in this area. What you did tonight was criminal impersonation of emergency personnel." Derek's composure finally cracked. "You don't understand. I'm trying to help this community. These people don't know how to take care of their properties. They need management by pretending to be firefighters." Marcus asked incredulously. "By showing them what real emergency preparedness looks like," Derek shouted. "The city takes too long to respond. I was protecting this neighborhood." "You were protecting your investment portfolio," Marcus shot back. "How many other residents have you pulled this scam on?" Derek's silence was answer enough. Mrs. Henderson stepped forward, her voice steady despite her tears. "Derek Manchin, you're fired as HOA president, and I'm calling the police to report attempted fraud." Derek laughed bitterly. "You can't fire me, Helen. I own 40% of the properties in this neighborhood through my management company. I am the HOA." The revelation hit Marcus like a physical blow. Derek didn't just manage the HOA, he had systematically bought up properties to control it completely. But as Derek's admission hung in the air, Marcus realized the man had just made a fatal mistake. His phone was still recording, Chief Rodriguez was still listening, and the security team was starting to look very uncomfortable about their employer. "Did you just admit to using your position as HOA president to benefit your property management business?" Chief Rodriguez asked quietly. Derek's eyes widened as he realized what he'd said. That's not what I meant, ... "It's exactly what you meant," Marcus said, holding up his phone. "And I've got it all recorded." The security team leader stepped back from Derek. "Sir, Apex Security doesn't involve itself in fraud cases. We're leaving." As the security team departed, Derek stood alone, surrounded by the residents he'd been tormenting and the authorities he'd been impersonating. But Marcus could see the calculation in Derek's eyes. The man was far from finished. Derek pulled out his phone one more time. "This isn't over, Chen. Not by a long shot." Derek's phone call was brief but ominous. "It's done," he said quietly. "Activate the contingency plan." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "What contingency plan?" Derek's smile returned, colder than before. "You think I got to where I am by not having backup plans? In exactly 30 minutes, emergency city council meeting. Topic: immediate condemnation of the entire Pinecrest neighborhood due to fire safety violations." "You can't do that, Chief," Rodriguez said, but his voice lacked conviction. "I can, and I will," Derek replied. "I've documented 17 code violations in this neighborhood over the past month. Faulty wiring, inadequate fire suppression systems, blocked emergency access routes. The Henderson fire was just the catalyst I needed." Mrs. Henderson gasped. "You're talking about condemning our entire neighborhood? For public safety, Derek?" Said with mock concern. "Of course, Mansion Property Management would be happy to purchase all condemned properties at fair market value, minus the demolition costs, naturally." Marcus's mind raced. "Those code violations, you created them, didn't you? The blocked access routes? The electrical problems? Prove it, Derek challenged. All I did was document existing problems. The fact that they suddenly appeared is just coincidence. But Marcus was already connecting the dots. The construction crews that have been working in the neighborhood for the past month, the ones doing routine maintenance on the electrical systems, they were working for you. Routine maintenance is required by HOA regulations, Derek said smoothly. If that maintenance occasionally reveals serious safety issues, well, that's just responsible community management. Chief Rodriguez stepped forward. Mr. Manchin, if you've been sabotaging properties to create code violations, I haven't sabotaged anything, Derek interrupted. I've simply been a diligent HOA president, ensuring all properties meet proper safety standards. The fact that most of them don't is hardly my fault. Marcus felt desperation creeping in. Even with all his recordings, Derek had been careful to maintain plausible deniability. But then Mrs. Henderson spoke up, her voice shaking with rage. The electrical work in my house last week, she said. Your crew said they were updating the system for free. But after they left, I kept having power surges. Age-related electrical problems are common in older homes, Derek replied dismissively. My house is only 8 years old, Mrs. Henderson snapped. And I kept the business card from your electrician, he said. He was doing the work per HOA. Emergency protocols. Derek's face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Marcus pulled out his phone. Mrs. Henderson, what was the electrician's name? She fumbled in her purse, pulling out a business card. Mike Torres, Electrical Services. He said he was contracted. Through Manchin Property Management, Marcus was already dialing. Mike Torres. This is Marcus Chen from Pinecrest. I need to ask you about some electrical work you did for Derek Manchin. Derek lunged for the phone, but Chief Rodriguez blocked. Let him make the call. After a brief conversation, Marcus hung up with a grim smile. Mike Torres is very cooperative. Apparently, Derek paid him to install faulty wiring in 12 houses in the neighborhood. Torres thought it was for some kind of insurance test. He's willing to testify. Derek's composure finally shattered completely. You don't understand. This neighborhood is perfect for development. These people are sitting on prime real estate and doing nothing with it. I'm trying to maximize the community's potential. By destroying people's homes, Mrs. Henderson asked, her voice breaking. By creating opportunities, Derek shouted. I can turn this neighborhood into a premium development. Property values would triple. Everyone would benefit. Everyone except the people who live here, Marcus said quietly. Derek's phone buzzed with a text message. He read it, and his face went from pale to ashen. No, this can't be happening. What is it? Chief Rodriguez asked. Derek looked around. At the assembled residents, his empire crumbling before his eyes, the city council meeting has been postponed. Apparently, someone filed a formal complaint about unauthorized development activities in the neighborhood. Marcus felt a surge of satisfaction. I called the city planning department while you were making your threats. They're very interested in your emergency response team, your electrical contractors, and your property management activities. This is far from over, Derek snarled. I'll tie this up in court for years. You'll all be bankrupt from legal fees before I'm done. But Mrs. Henderson stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. Derek, you're forgetting something important. What's that? She smiled, and for the first time all night it reached her eyes. I'm not just a retired teacher. I'm a retired teacher who spent 30 years dealing with bullies exactly like you. And I know exactly what to do with them. Derek scoffed. What could you possibly do to me? Mrs. Henderson pulled out her own phone, showing him the screen. I've been recording everything but, more importantly, I've been live streaming it to the neighborhood Facebook group. All 437 members have been watching your little performance tonight. Derek's face went white as he realized the implications. You can single quotes T, ... that's invasion of privacy. In a public emergency? I don't think so, Mrs. Henderson replied. And I have to say, Derek, you've been very educational tonight. You've shown everyone exactly who you really are. As if summoned by her words, cars began pulling up around the scene. Neighbors emerged, their faces grim with purpose. Marcus recognized most of them people Derek had fined, threatened, or harassed over the past year. looks like the neighborhood has some things to discuss with you, Derek, Marcus said. Derek looked around at the growing crowd, his face a mask of panic. I want to call my lawyer. Good idea, Chief Rodriguez said, pulling out his handcuffs. You're going to need one. Derek Manchin, you're under arrest for criminal impersonation of emergency personnel, attempted fraud, and criminal conspiracy. As the handcuffs clicked into place, Derek made one last desperate play. This is all a misunderstanding. I was trying to help the community. Everything I did was for the good of the neighborhood. Mrs. Henderson stepped forward one final time. Derek, you're absolutely right. You did help the community. You helped us all realize that we're stronger together than we ever were apart, and we're going to make sure everyone knows what you tried to do here tonight. As Derek was led away to the police car, Marcus looked around at his neighbor's people he'd barely spoken to before tonight, now united by their shared experience of standing up to a bully. So, Mrs. Henderson said, surveying the crowd, who wants to help me organize a real HOA meeting? I think we have some important changes to make. The cheer that went up from the assembled neighbors was loud enough to wake the entire street, and for the first time in months, Marcus felt like he was truly home. Later, as the last of the neighbors dispersed and the emergency vehicles departed, Marcus stood in his driveway, looking at the Henderson house. The fire damage was extensive, but the house could be rebuilt. The community, however, was stronger than it had ever been. His phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Henderson. Thank you for standing up tonight. Whiskers is safe, by the way. He was hiding in the basement the whole time. Marcus smiled, typing back, thank you for showing us all what real courage looks like. As he headed inside, Marcus reflected on the night's events. Derek Manchin had tried to destroy their neighborhood through fear, manipulation, and fraud. But in the end, his scheme had backfired spectacularly, bringing the community together in ways it had never been before. Justice, Marcus thought, sometimes came in the most unexpected forms.